This episode might be a bit more uncomfortable to you than usual. I'm not saying this to clickbait you or to grab your attention, but I actually mean it. So you're really prepared for what's coming next. And at the same time, I promise you that this is not a generic self help content. You're going to walk away with value. So you go out, you trace area to know if people are looking at you. You imagine your goal. You visualize how women, how girls will react to your sports car, how your relatives, how your family members will treat you after you are successful. You post a nice picture of yourself on social media and now you're waiting for reactions on it. You try to ignore people because reels made you believe that, Sigma male, ignore people and they will give you attention. And at the very end, you convince yourself that I don't seek attention. But if you really think about it, none of it is actually about attention. It's you simply trying to prove that you exist. I used to stay at my grandfather's home in my vacations, and he used to ask me the same question every single time I went there. And that question was, because I was a kid, whom are you studying for? And I intuitively answered, I'm doing it for my parents. And then he used to correct me, do it for yourself. And the funny thing is that even after being corrected 100 times, I just answered, I'm doing it for my parents. I'm doing it for my parents. Every single year. And honestly, that looked good in intentions. But looking back, I realized that I wasn't studying for my parents. I was studying so they approve me. So they approve me of being a so-called good child. Even society keeps forcing us. Prove your worth. Show whatever you can do to people. That's exactly what we are fed from childhood, directly or indirectly. Our worth is pinned to output. From the childhood, we are pushed to the idea of becoming important. And to fulfill this void, we dedicate our entire lives to make sure it happens. Study hard to get good grades. Chase a respected professional position. Save up for a bigger house so you're admired. Loan for a sleeker car, and so on. Most people spend their life in a constant race to be validated. Achievement without witness feels hollow, and validation feels like a ventilator. I want to ask you a question. What are you trying to prove? Don't comment a socially acceptable answer. Just write the honest one. Because by the end, you may realize that your answer wasn't a real answer at all. The internet keeps telling us that don't seek attention. And that's why instead of admitting that you want to be seen, you suppress your desire. But suppression doesn't remove the need. And as a result, you stop asking for attention directly and start chasing achievements, grades, status, admiration, anything that can quietly reassure you that you matter. You're being grinded between two poles. The first is IDGAF narrative. The second is deep inside I want to be validated. And if you really look at why social media is so common nowadays, you'll observe that it's less about connection and more about being validated, especially among young individuals. And I know most people just become defensive listening to this. Like, how can you say this? You are this, you are that. They'll put 100 kinds of the trendy internet labels on me. But it is what it is. Every human action is directed to fulfill something. Social media acts as a deep reservoir to pump up validation. The chase is never satisfying because the scale of comparison is never ending. Now, the most obvious question, why do humans seek validation at all? When we were a child, our parents validated us. They made us feel seen. They made us feel loved and cared for. Now, when we reach teenage, we discover social media. We discover attraction. We begin to chase engagement. We begin to chase romantic sparks. Those things make us feel like we are acknowledged. Because at this age, the primary objective for most is to be looking their best, discovering the best riz to impress their so-called, right? And showcasing themselves. Now, around early 20s, we are chasing a career. And this keeps going on and on and on. But the chase, I'm giving the disclaimer, the chase isn't the problem. I'll clear it out as we move ahead. For now, just understand that we constantly chase things to be validated. Validation becomes a side project for everything we do in our lives. And if we go deeper into it, every form of validation is ultimately an attempt to prove our existence. Look at me, I'm existing here. Look at me, I have a Mercedes. Look at me, I have built a legacy. A lot of the chase in life is just a marathon to achieve a sense of importance. This is the deepest layer of all. We seek importance in our family, among friends, in our society, in the society. This may make you uncomfortable, but your self worth is rested upon others. Someone randomly compliments you and it becomes a major highlight of your day. Someone ignores you and it feels like a tragedy. Someone talks down on you and you begin to overthink what they said for the rest of your day. Self worth was never fully yours to begin with. It was a blank check waiting for others to sign on it. The chase isn't directly about status or respect. They are just what we see. The chase is about something deceptively subtler. You simply want proof that people acknowledge your existence, that people see you. But again, I'll bring up the same question. What are you trying to prove and why? You're just trying to fill this sense of incompleteness you're burdened with from your childhood. The idea of becoming something makes normal existence feel like a failure. I'm not talking about job versus do your own thing or follow your passion. No, I'm talking about the roots inside you, why you are doing what you're doing, and the answer lies in your fantasies. I'll be respected. Girls will admire me. I'll buy a nice car, so on and so forth. I'm not here to villainize those. In fact, those can be strong motivators for some. But I want you to do a thought experiment right now. Imagine everyone disappeared and you are the only one surviving. Now, what's the meaning of your life? What remains if everything was rested on others? Your meaning is suddenly torn down to nothingness. Some can argue humans are social creatures, I get it. I also understand that we mostly have meanings related to other people. Why would I be talking to this camera empty in my room if no one would be listening to this on the other side? Why would you study? Why would you even wake up, literally? Why would someone go out for work? Life would just end at survival. I get this argument, but there is a fine line of difference between a life directed to a meaning and a life directed to seek constant bumps of attention, approval, and validation. And it's really difficult to point out which way your scale is really weighing because it requires honesty, which is one of those things that sound simple but is incredibly difficult. Many people can verbally be an advocate of things they don't care about. I remember there was a person in my hometown, and once in a month or so, he used to come to the field where I used to work out. And every time he came there, he used to say, I'll come from next Monday, tell me what time do you come here? And this kept repeating for 2 years. Literally 2 years. After a point, I literally used to laugh when he used to ask it again. But I just answered simply. So the point is, that person didn't care about his health. That person didn't wanted to run or pull up or do anything. His motives were different. He certainly knows that physical training is good for health, but he didn't wanted good health in the first place. His goal was just the internet trend of aesthetic physique that was trending back then, and even now. So, one thing I'd want you to reflect on is this. Keeping results aside, do you really care about what you do? Defensively and impulsively, you'll say, oh, I do care, but I'm telling you, don't trust it. Don't. The simplest test to get a clear answer is if you're given the result, whatever your aim is, will you still put in the effort? Let's say your goal or dream income is $10,000 a month. And now imagine that someone gave you $10,000 every month as a pocket money. Now, my question to you is would you still care to build a business? Or more concretely, if you're magically gifted with your dream physique without you lifting an empty barbell, would you still train? You can flaunt your wisdom in the comment section of philosophy channels, but you cannot lie to yourself. Deep down, you know your honest stake, and once you really know your honest calling, you'll get where your scale is actually tilting towards. If you deeply desire results without efforts, then you can't deny, my friend, you're chasing validation. Your life is directed to be validated, and this should make you think for a while. Really. Your life tells you more about you than what you think about yourself. Now let's bring up the previous claim. Every form of validation is simply an attempt to prove your existence. Now, it looks fine on the surface, like what can be the problem if someone is trying to prove their existence? What's the problem if someone is chasing importance? If that is the case, then no one would do anything in their lives, right? Wrong. The problem isn't that we chase things. The problem is that the chase becomes a master plan to prove our existence. And we don't just want it once, we want it again and again and again and again. We want to be acknowledged every single time, and as smooth as butter, as unknowingly as alien attacks on Earth, validation becomes the center of our lives. Every action revolves around it, and it feels normal. Kind of like between a group of alcoholics, alcohol is normal. Validation is more like an addictive drug that the individual returns to again and again. If I open up with my experience with chasing validation, after a point I started to feel a weird sense of creepiness, if that is a word. When I was 10, 12, 13 years old, I was very skinny. And my friends used to make fun of me, like, oh, look at your hands, look at your wrist, look at your legs. Around when I was 14-ish, I began physical training. And I built up a decent physique at that point of time, according to my age. It became the center of my life. Muscle, muscle, muscle. People complimented me. My classmates began to respect me. And I used to post pictures of myself showing off my physique on social media, on Instagram. And after years of doing this in my younger years, I started to feel weird about it. I knew why I was posting myself. People replied with fire emojis. Girls admired. People in my hometown literally recognized me for my physique. And I'll be very honest, I was getting addicted to that feeling a bit. But somewhere I also felt empty. Instead of doing the workout which I enjoyed, I used to do the workout which will bring up the maximum hypertrophy. I felt empty without validation. I craved it again and again and again on loop. My default expectation back then was set to, okay, now people should compliment me on my physique because I have this rare, awesome V-taper, whatever that aesthetic physique meant to me. It took me some time to get over it, but I somehow made the change. And how I made the change? I'll talk about it in section 6. So, we spent 4 full sections arguing against validation, but now it's worth naming a distinction that matters. Validation isn't immoral. People on the internet often criticize validation as something immoral. The same goes with pleasure. These are portrayed as some moral failures. Oh, you seek pleasure? You are this immoral, stingy person. You seek validation? It's wrong. Don't seek that. But that's honestly a big misinterpretation. Something is considered immoral if it causes harm to someone or something by any means, like damaging a public property, like cheating, like lying. But seeking validation doesn't do any of that. None of that. I'm not saying validation is good. I'm saying that validation is not immoral. That's the nuance worth understanding. But here's the part that matters. Even though it's not inherently immoral, it has effects on the individual. Pleasure, for example, isn't immoral or unethical most of the times. But it obviously has negative impacts on the individual if it's not restrained or if it's not regulated. Validation follows the same pattern. It's not immoral, but somewhere it distorts your life. Humans only repeat what is of utility to them. You won't put your finger on a running grinder jar in your kitchen because you know it hurts. Conversely, if something provides pleasure, you seek that. Simple logic. So what's the problem with validation? Some say it's being needy, some say it's fine. 100 people, 100 opinions, but at the root, validation seeking behavior is often about filling an internal gap. We discussed about this in the prior sections. Now, a quick mental filter to catch validation seeking behavior in yourself. I do use this personally because even though we are talking about validation as this, validation as that, that's more of a psychological impulse that every human has. And sometimes even my mind turns towards that, even now. And the change happens when I catch that. And I have to clearly say this so you're not driving yourself towards these unrealistic expectations of become validation proof. And if I don't say that, you'll most probably turn towards the narrative of become a monk. Don't seek validation, just sit down and meditate. And once you drop into these streams, the moment you get this impulse of validation, you'll criticize yourself instead of understanding yourself. Impulse is not the problem. The problem is you being driven towards that impulse uncontrollably. That's where most people, maybe including you, are stuck. So the filter is, if an action is explicitly done to draw maximize, it's validation seeking. Like I posted my physique photos. That was pure validation seeking. I genuinely accept that. But here's the nuance. Me posting long form essays on YouTube. It's also posting, it's also to be publicly seen, but it's not about validation. It's about business. I'm writing my first book, and with time as I grow here, I'll make a living. I'm not here to get approval from people. I'm not here for, oh, I posted a video, now compliment me with fire emojis. The difference is hoping a reaction, acknowledgement, compliment, or agreement versus hoping for fulfillment of one's personal interests. So, after all this talk about validation, one crucial question arises. Should I then sacrifice all my desires because at the end it's validation to a degree? When talked about validation, most arguments just drop down to become sigma, focus on yourself. But my take is completely different. The art of going through life without demanding acknowledgement for your existence is the true indicator of your happiness from life. It's not about, reject validation. It's about, don't demand it. Those are two very different things. Rejecting something is not the same as not demanding it. You cannot have what you reject, but you can have what you don't demand. It's not anti-desire, it's anti-dependency. Because if you look deeper, it's your very expectation to be validated that causes despair. Someone doesn't pay attention to you, you feel rejected. Someone doesn't praise you for your efforts, you feel unseen. Someone do not believe in you, you feel revengeful. Conversely, someone praises you, you feel validated. Someone gives you attention, you feel important. These feelings arise because you have an expectation to be treated as someone important, as someone of significance. And when it doesn't happen, you feel sad. And to be very clear, I'm not saying that these feelings are wrong. It's your mistake that you feel those, You can definitely have expectations with certain people, with selective people. There's a difference between relational expectation and demanding importance. So there's no point of saying, oh, just stop expecting anything from anyone. You do keep expectations with certain people, and those expectations itself shape the relationships you're in. Right. And those expectations are different from seeking validation. So, getting to the point, demanding importance itself is a mousetrap. It makes you vulnerable to external judgments. Most judgments are just personal interpretations, and validation is simply you giving more importance than necessary to those interpretations. It's not about rejecting praises or compliments or becoming rude to them. It's about realizing that you don't even need them, that your self-worth is so solidified inside you that you don't even need people to shape it for you. Because judgment is both ways, negative and positive. Positive is what we call validation, compliment, praise. If you get it, fine. Don't downplay it, don't pedestalize it, say thank you, move on. I mean, genuinely move on. It should not become the highlight of your day, or at least it should not become a moment in your life where you felt like, oh, I am important. That's called not needing. Because the more you go through life, you realize that this race doesn't make sense. And to end this episode, I'll just say this again. The art of going through life without demanding acknowledgement for your existence is the true indicator of your happiness from life. Rahul, signing off.